Officer Cassidy Miller had 6 minutes to decide if she was going to follow the law or follow her gut, or a man's life would end in the back of her patrol unit. It was August in San Antonio, 106 degrees, and the air felt like breathing through a hot, wet blanket. Cassidy, a 10-year veteran of the Texas Highway Patrol, stood over Leo Vance, a prisoner who had just escaped a high-security transport after a brutal crash. Leo was 240 pounds of muscle and desperation, his orange jumpsuit shredded, and a silver shard of glass from the windshield buried deep in his thigh. Most cops would have had their service weapon drawn, shouting for him to get on the ground, but Cassidy saw the specific data points of a tragedy. The way Leo wasn't running away, but crawling back toward the burning transport bus. She saw his hands, calloused and scarred from years of hard labor, reaching for a small, charred photo on the pavement. Without thinking, Cassidy dropped her belt and knelt in the glass. She didn't see a convict. She saw a man who had 9 months left on a sentence for a crime he didn't commit, and he was bleeding out on the Texas asphalt. "Don't take advantage of this moment, officer," Leo wheezed, his eyes flickering with the onset of shock. "Just finish me. I can't go back to that." "Whole!" Cassidy didn't listen to the radio screaming for backup. She grabbed his hand, her grip like iron, and whispered, "I'm not here to finish you, Leo. I'm here to fix what the system broke." She reached for her first aid kit, and what she did next would trigger a blood debt mobilization that would shake the Texas justice system to its core. The lady cop, everyone thought was by the book, was about to become untouchable. The temperature on the pavement was hitting 120 degrees, and the smell of burning rubber and diesel was suffocating. Leo Vance wasn't just a prisoner, he was a man who had been stepped over by the world for 3 years. Cassidy applied a tourniquet to his leg, her hands moving with the precision of a field medic. She noticed the micro-climax details. Leo's BMI was dangerously low. His wrists had deep, repetitive trauma scars from old shackles, and he had a tattoo on his forearm, the emblem of the 101st Airborne. This man was a veteran, a hero who had been discarded like trash. Cassidy remembered his file. Leo had been locked in a basement of the legal system because of a fake testimony from a corrupt business partner. He'd lost his house, his $150,000 retirement fund, and his dignity. As she wiped the sweat and blood from his forehead, Cassidy felt a wave of protective fury. She'd been a cop for a decade, but this was the first time she felt like she was on the right side of the line. "They told me you were a flight risk," she said, her voice a low American growl. "But they didn't tell me you were a brother-in-arms." Leo looked at her badge, then at her eyes. He saw something he hadn't seen in years: safety. He realized this lady cop wasn't taking advantage of his helplessness. She was clutching the line for him. But the sirens in the distance were getting louder, and the cleaners from the private security firm were only minutes away. As the backup arrived, Cassidy did something strange. Instead of handing Leo over, she told the EMTs he was her witness and had to stay in her custody. She drove him not to the county jail, but to a secluded ranch outside of Austin, a property owned by her father, a retired Texas Ranger. For 3 days, she performed a strange ritual. Every evening at sunset, she would make Leo sit in the yard and read out loud from a stack of legal documents. She would apply a specific type of medicinal oil to his scars, whispering, "The skin remembers, but the truth heals." Leo was confused. He thought this was some kind of psychological trap. "Why are you doing this, Cassidy?" "I'm a ghost. By spring, I'll be back in a cage." Cassidy didn't look up from his bandaged leg. "God helps those who help themselves, Leo, but in Texas, we help those who've been wronged by the law." She was taking advantage of her rank to hide him while she worked with a secret guardian, a retired detective named Bones. They were digging into the $150,000 inheritance that Leo's partner had stolen. Every night, Cassidy would sit on the porch with her service weapon on her lap, watching the road. She was losing control of her career, but she was gaining her soul back. The peace of the ranch was shattered on the 4th night. Cassidy's phone buzzed with a message from Wire, her digital evidence contact. The fake bedroom and forged homeschool records trick wasn't just for kids. Leo's partner had used forged documents to strip Leo of his veteran benefits. But there was something darker. The car accident that Leo was blamed for, the one that sent him to prison, wasn't an accident. The brake lines had been clipped, just like in the stories of old. Suddenly, 3 black SUVs with high-beam lights cut through the Texas dark. These weren't cops. These were private contractors hired by the man who stole Leo's life. They thought a lady cop and a broken convict would be an easy solve. They didn't realize they were stepping onto a ranger's land. Cassidy stood her ground, her silhouette framed by the porch light. "You're a long way from the city, boys," she shouted, her voice echoing the pure American grit we love. "On this ranch, we don't recognize your badges. We only recognize the truth." The total outlaw vibe was real now. She wasn't just a cop. She was a protector. The fight was short and brutal. Cassidy used the ranch's strange geography to her advantage, leading the contractors into a trap near the old barn. But the real shocking ending happened when the lead contractor was pinned down. Cassidy pulled off his mask and froze. It was her own sergeant from the highway patrol, the man who was supposed to protect her. He'd been on the take for years, helping Leo's partner keep him in prison. "You're throwing it all away for a loser, Cassidy," the sergeant spat. "He's a statistic. Nobody saw him coming, and nobody cares if he goes." Cassidy looked at Leo, who was standing behind her, holding a shovel like a weapon. She smiled a cold Texas smile. "That's where you're wrong, Sarge. I didn't see a loser. I saw my brother." She revealed the truth. Leo Vance wasn't just a veteran. He was the man who had saved her father's life in Iraq 20 years ago. The photo Leo was reaching for in the crash. It was a picture of him and Cassidy's father in uniform. The blood debt was 2 decades old, and it was finally being paid in full. Within an hour, the Brotherhood mobilization began. Cassidy didn't call the local precinct. She called the Iron Reapers, the biker club Leo had belonged to before the war. 50 Harleys roared onto the ranch, a convoy of justice that the corrupt sergeant couldn't stop. They brought with them bones and wire and a mountain of evidence that couldn't be wiped clean. The $150,000 was recovered. The corrupt sergeant was zip-tied and handed over to the FBI, not the local cops. Leo Vance sat on the porch, wrapped in a heavy leather jacket, the one Cassidy's father had worn. He wasn't a prisoner anymore. He was a legend. The lady cop had risked everything, but in the end, she made Leo untouchable. The system tried to bury him, but Cassidy Miller showed them that in Texas, the pure of heart cannot be defeated by magic or lies. Late that night, after the chaos had settled, Cassidy found Leo sitting in the dark kitchen. He was pretending to sleep, but she could see the tears tracking through the dust on his face. She sat beside him, the pure American silence filling the room. "I thought I was dead, Cassidy," he whispered. "I thought I was just another number in the spring." Cassidy placed her hand on his, her fingers steady. "You were never a number, Leo. You were a promise. My father told me about you since I was 12. He told me that one day I'd have to be the one to help. I just didn't know it would be like this." She handed him his inheritance, not just the money, but his honorable discharge papers and his life back. The strange ritual of reading the law wasn't a trap. It was his education. She had taught him how to fight back using the very system that tried to kill him. The news of the lady cop and the vets swept across the USA. It wasn't just a heartwarming story. It was a wake-up call. Cassidy didn't lose her badge. She was promoted to internal affairs, where she now hunts the fake protectors who take advantage of the helpless. Leo Vance opened a ranch for struggling veterans, funded by the very money that was stolen from him. This story teaches us that every face hides a story, and behind every hardship, there is a hidden blessing. Don't judge a man by his jumpsuit, and don't judge a cop by her silence. Sometimes the most insane choices lead to the most untouchable lives. Pain and patience sometimes open the door to the greatest reward. Friends Cassidy and Leo's story shows us that real heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear a badge and a holster, and they're willing to clutch the line for a stranger. If you believe that our veterans deserve better and that pure intentions can break any curse, smash that like button right now. And if you want more stories of grit, honor, and the untouchable truth, Hit the subscribe button for Highway Ghost. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Cassidy's shoes? Stay loyal, ride for the truth, and remember, every heart that is pure cannot be defeated. We'll see you in the next one.